This is another episode of the Backstage Sports Podcast. I'm Joe Connor.
I'm JT Harker.
And today we got another very special guest, friend of the show, fellow musician. So he knows what the coronavirus struggle is like these days. We got Al Cleveland on the show. What's up, Al?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
What's up, man? Thanks for coming on, bro. Oh, we giving you a little bit of the Jordan music in the background now. I just heard it. So
it just comes on randomly.
It just randomly comes on. Al, tell us what's going on with you. You were just telling us a little bit before we hopped in a little bit about what you were doing, what's going on right now. I think you said you were a little bit of a bi-coastal situation right now. So what's going on?
Yeah. So so I was in the process of moving my family. I have a wife and a little baby. Moved to LA in 2016, and before me and my wife got married, was doing back and forth, and then was about to move my family over to the West Coast, and then coronavirus happened and kind of put a shutdown to everything. Literally was heading out in June. Right. So, plans are getting a little bit shifted. It hasn't derailed the plans, but, it's definitely putting everybody kind of at a standstill for right now. So right now I'm quarantined over on the East Coast with them for the time being.
Right. So for those who don't know, Al is a phenomenal drummer, phenomenal musician. He's toured with Leanne Rhymes, Skip Marley, Anthony Ramos, Rich Bryant. He's currently, when he's not quarantined and dealing with the coronavirus BS, he was on the road with Bryce Vine, I think, last you were playing with.
That's right. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on musically right now. Like, I know I've been doing a lot of session stuff, just trying to figure out how to do that from the house and everything like that. So what's going on with you as far as the music game?
Dude, so honestly, I took about a week to, process what happened and, not be depressed, but just kind of just take it all in, all of us musicians essentially lost an entire year in the first quarter.
Literally.
So I took about a week to let that sink in, and then I just immediately got to work. In North Hollywood, I have a studio space where I can cut drums and do stuff like that. And I was like, well, since I'm over here, I got a new space and setting up to. I got another week, and I'll be ready to do remote recording sessions from over here. So just to keep busy while I'm stuck. Try to do as much content and, like I said, recording stuff. But as you know, the industry is at a complete standstill.
Yeah, man.
I'm the type of person that's I can't just sit in it. I got to do something. Right. I don't even know how lucrative or how crazy it's going to be, but I've been lucky to I put the feelers out there that I was going to be doing this and able to record, and I've got some bites already. So all you can do is try. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. JT, I know you were, before we shut down, you were going back and forth to Nashville a lot, and you were in the middle of working on a lot of new music. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so because we were releasing music, I hadn't gone a lot in the last few months leading up to the COVID, but I went right as stuff was starting to get shut down. So when I was out in Nashville, they had just went into quarantine.
Right.
And the schools were, or at least the schools were shut down, is what I think was going on. Because my producer Derek George, where the studio is at his house, his wife's a teacher, and all the schools had shut down and so on and so forth. And then I was supposed to come home from Nashville, but then we booked that last minute show at Stoney's in Vegas.
Right.
So I changed my flight straight to Vegas, played that show, and then right after that is when everything got shut down. We thought we weren't even going to play that show in Vegas.
Yeah, I thought that thing was going to get canceled for sure.
But yeah, now we got the next single coming out. Drunk People will be out in 3 or 4 weeks. We haven't picked a date yet, and just finished the artwork, and I'm excited about that. And then when I can, I'll be back out in Nashville. Did you hear Newsom just extended the stay home till August?
Till July. Oh, August. I thought I saw something today that said July. I didn't even know it extended to August. But
Dave Buginski posted that he said at least till August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
I'm beside myself, man. I'm beside that.
I'm not surprised.
I've never voted before, but he wants to be president someday. And when he goes for that, I'm going to be voting.
Yeah, well, the thing is, everybody is pushing it back, so it's not really a Gavin thing. Like, everybody is pushing it back because what's happening is they're just now getting more tests, and with the more tests that they get, the more numbers are going to go up. So even though it's going to seem like, oh, it's getting worse, it's really just they're finally getting the equipment. They're finally getting the tests to do it.
All the numbers I've been seeing is nowhere near as bad as they thought, and all the other states are opening up.
Yeah, the other states are opening up, but the stuff I've been seeing has been saying that the test number, like I just read something today that Atlanta had 2,000 new cases, that Florida had 1,500 new cases. So a lot of that I think is, and a lot of that I think is, they were open faster. They were the first two states to open and not have any restrictions. And the other thing is, where more states are now getting more tests. So I remember telling somebody a couple months ago, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing stretched to August. So it's funny that you said that today, because I just read something today that said that LA County for sure is stretching the stay-at-home order to July. So I was like, oh,
this is killing the economy, man.
I mean, as much as when it first happened, I remember everybody being like, 2 weeks. I knew right then. I knew 100%. I was like, this is typical American arrogance.
Yeah, like no way.
At the same time, if you had I knew pretty quickly on that shows and touring and all that type of stuff. You know, like I keep up with everything from all the WHO, CDC, everything. I figured that was going to stretch through the year. But as far as stay at home, I didn't think it was going to go all the way to August, July, August. I thought we'd be kind of getting back out around now. It's. I mean,
I was thinking a month and we'd start easing back in.
Yeah.
Which a lot of other. I mean, dude, there's states that basically didn't even shut down at all.
Yeah.
Iowa didn't shut down at all. There's like 5-6 states that didn't really even shut
Tennessee,
down.
Knoxville. I know one of my close friends. He lives in Knoxville, and like Tennessee they did what they did, but like I guess different mayors made their own kind of calls as well. And he told me in Knoxville they didn't even shut the daycare down, not one day. Like,
oh yeah. My cousin is a teacher in Maryland, and she's been going to work every day since the shutdown, because everybody has like their own type of system. So their system is, if you have essential working parents at your school, then you still got to come in because they're still letting the kids come in. So it's like everybody is doing these different little nuggets, and LA is technically doing opening in phases. So right now we're in phase 1, where like they open the beaches, except you can only go 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. or something like that. You can't sit on the beach. You got to be moving. You can only go and play volleyball or something like that, or run. You can't sit on the beach, no sunbathing or anything like that. The next phase is like maybe more hours. Last week was the phase of retail stores. So we are doing the phase thing. I think for musicians, it's going to be worse for us than it is everybody else, because the one thing that mostly all the states are vehemently opposed to is large gatherings, which is our issue. So I think we are opening in stages, but it's just it doesn't help us. It doesn't help the musicians.
It's way too slow. It's way too slow.
Ironically, you know, with this podcast, Backstage Sports, is like, you know, right now the musicians and the athletes or the professional athletes are very much in the same boat, because, you know, we're talking about they don't want if they don't want no games back with fans in it, then that's going to affect us. I mean, I think that at some point, I feel like the you know, if you're familiar with clubs in LA like Hotel Cafe, Viper Room, stuff like that, I think that those will probably thrive at the beginning, because that's pretty much going to be the lifeblood of playing, because they ain't.
Which is good, because that's mainly the venues we're playing right now.
Exactly, dude. I frequent those venues as well, so it's like, you know, this is a whole different topic, but like I just hope that, you know, some of the, I don't know, more glitzier artists, like maybe a John Mayer or something like that, decides like, well, I want to do a show, so I'm gonna take up 5 nights at Hotel Cafe. That's taken away from bands. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah, so, I could see. It's funny you say I could see something like that happening, because this pandemic has been the ultimate equalizer, right? Like, funny thing is, me and my fiance went to the store the other day, last weekend. I think it was like a Target, right? And it's like, it shows you how much of an equalizer it is, because it's a line wrapped around the building, right, to get in because they're only letting, a certain number of people in at a time. And it's like right there in that moment, it's like it's no VIP, it's no pay to get into the front, it's no fast pass. It's like you rich, you poor, you famous, you it don't matter what it is, your ass is waiting in the line with everybody else. And it's like this pandemic being the ultimate equalizer is also affecting all of the big artists at the top, right? So what's going to happen when maybe the smaller clubs open up? Is it now, the major artists is going to come on the strip? They're going to be on the strip in West Hollywood talking about, I want 3 nights at the Viper Room. You know what I'm saying?
I really
and stuff
think
like
that's
that.
going to happen, man.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that happening for sure. Okay, so let's hop into some sports. So obviously this past week was episode, 7 and 8 for the Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. Is that the music? There it is. There, I hear it. I hear it. It's coming. Yeah, I hear it. There it is. There it is.
My childhood. It's my childhood.
Do we have somebody producing this show now? Like, it just comes on.
It just comes on because as soon as you start talking Jordan and the documentary, that's what you just hear in the background. There it is. So we saw those 2 episodes, 7 and 8. Let's start here. What was your biggest takeaway from the 2 episodes that you saw this past weekend?
So, it's funny because I know we're going to get into some opinions about MJ, but because now every time I watch it, because we've started this podcast in the last 6 weeks, the whole time I'm watching it as a fan and just enjoying it. But then I'm also like, then I start thinking about what's Joe Connor going to say? and in my mind, when I'm saying, the not as nice way to put it, I'm like, how is Joe Connor going to spin this to make MJ look really bad? But my personal biggest takeaway from just watching it as a guy, because I'm a little older than Joe, I lived through the MJ thing, was my childhood, high school. It was my growth. I was there for the whole thing. And so a lot of people that are watching this have never known these stories. Even the stories that were big deals back then, the younger people now didn't even know them. So a lot of these people are like, I can't even believe this happened. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was all known. So for me, I never had this glistening image of MJ that younger people have now, because they just know him by the awesome clothing line and the shoes and his legacy. Because when they show him on TV now, they're showing these game-winning shots. They're not showing the failures. I lived through the failures. I remember my dad used to diss Michael Jordan, he can't win a championship. All he cares about is scoring. He's selfish. Scottie Pippen's soft. Horace Grant's soft. I lived, and I hated it because I was rooting for the Bulls, but I heard this from the generation before me.
Yeah.
But when I'm watching it now, all it does for me is because there will be things that come up that I didn't know, not the big stories, but just because now they're interviewing BJ Armstrong and Steve Kerr now, talking about what happened. That's where I get it's cool seeing them reflect now as opposed to them talking back then. But for me, it just makes me even a bigger fan of MJ. And I'm not the world's biggest MJ fan. I love MJ for sure. I'm definitely not as big of an MJ fan as Joe is a LeBron fan. But
or as Joe is an MJ fan.
Oh yeah, right. I've literally never, ever, as long as I've known Joe, heard him say one even slightly good thing about MJ.
Oh, that's not true.
Not even one. Not even one.
No
one even one.
I do it every week. I do it every week on the podcast because you have to.
Al, have you watched the podcast?
You have to.
I have watched the podcast.
You have to, because if you say MJ missed a layup, everybody's like, you're a hater. You're the worst person in the world. You don't know basketball.
No.
Kill yourself. So you gotta say, wait a minute. MJ was great. I have him second all time. I think he was the greatest scorer ever to live. You gotta.
I've never heard these things. I talk to you every day. I've never heard you say these things.
You have to premise everything you say by that, because it's funny. Because I was just telling Gabe Rowland, who was on a couple weeks ago. He was texting me a couple hours ago about the documentary, and I was like, it's funny because you gotta couch everything you say about Michael and pillows, or people are gonna crush you. you hate MJ, you hate da 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 da. And it's like, why do I hate MJ? Because I say he isn't perfect. That's really what happens. Like because it's funny you say you live through the imperfections, and I think a lot of what you said is accurate because a lot of especially my generation, I feel like a lot of them, even though we were watching it, we got to see him at the tail end. We didn't really get to see all of the imperfections that happened early. Yeah. And so when I'm arguing with a lot of our generation, he's perfect. Right. He never lost. He never failed. He never came up short in the playoffs. He never 6 for 6. That's all we hear. All we hear is 6 for 6. And so whenever you say something that's like, wait a minute, no, he was not perfect. It's like everybody wants to kill you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we've gone a little further than he's not perfect, but saying he's not perfect is a little different than just like dude, he gets blasted. He gets blasted by my co-host. So he's blasted.
So here's the thing.
I hear it.
Let's set the premise. Here's the blast that we're referring to, right? So the question was raised on a lot of talk shows and TV and podcasts and blogs and all that other stuff about audiences questioning MJ's leadership tactics and asking were they warranted or was it what some people are calling bullying? And then the sub question was really like, is the documentary hurting his legacy at all? And so I kind of sparked a bit of a debate on Facebook because I said something to the effects of it's annoying to see people explain away Michael's toxic behavior in the same breath as somebody would say, you know, if a woman was beaten, you should just suck that up because your man was rich and you're taken care of, right? And you can't say anything bad about Jordan, especially online. So everybody jumps in your DMs and they attack you. But my only point was, and I want to go to you, Al, next.
That analogy is awful.
But it's really not because the thing is the thing is people thinking that the ends justify the means, right? Just because you're taken care of, you might be rich beyond all means. Your children might be taken care of. Doesn't mean that it's okay for a man to hit on you, right? Just because Mike won 6 championships doesn't mean it was okay for him to punch Steve Kerr in the face, fight Will Perdue, call Scott Burrell a bitch and a tool, have multiple fights. Like just because he won multiple championships doesn't mean that everything he did was okay. You know what I mean? And I think that we come across a lot of people who do that. Like I was telling Al, I was like, look at John's last one of the guys that we were going back and forth on Facebook, John Jones. I said, look at his last post. He just explained away everything he did. Like, well, it's tough love. He punches somebody in the face. It's like, that's okay. It's just tough love. It's like, no, that's toxic.
It's not toxic. It's not toxic.
Is.
It's not. No, it's not. First of all, I want to say this to the adults that are using the word bullying, because I personally, and again, we're in a millennial generation and I lived through a different generation. I've never even, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard bullying as a term being used in relation to adults. So whoever says that needs to grow up and toughen up. That is fucking ridiculous. I've never heard that. First of all.
So a lot of people say it starting with psychologists because it is a proven fact that bullying is not just subjected to children. So you can be people have used their position to bully people. The whole Me Too movement was about men using their position to bully women into doing things that they wanted them to do. That's what the whole just because something stood for years doesn't mean that today, it's like saying, women back then were tougher because there wasn't the Me Too movement. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like,
no. It does, because you have to go with what's culturally acceptable at the time. So,
but that doesn't make it okay. Like, it was acceptable.
It makes it okay for the time.
I'm saying today, we're talking about it today, though.
No, but we're talking about it. It didn't happen today.
Right.
Today, no one would go. Today,
we can still look back and realize that was bad, right? Like, slavery was the law of the land at one
That's
point,
another
right?
extreme analogy.
It doesn't. No, it's not extreme because we can still look at it today and go that it was legal then, but it was wrong. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. You can do that, but at the same time, there's nuance to that. So obviously, I'm a white dude, so I had ancestors who probably owned slaves. But I can look at that saying slavery is wrong, but at the same time, it was culture. It was just the way of the world. So even though we changed it, it got changed by great people who progressed us forward. I can't look at my ancestors and go, "Oh, they were bad people."
But you agree that it was wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
That's all my point. Go ahead, Al.
But that's not. But we weren't talking about slavery. We were talking about bullying full-grown adult millionaires.
I was talking about my Facebook status, and the premise of my Facebook status was that it was wrong, and that people today explain it away just because Jordan won championships. And so it's the same thing where you can look today and say slavery was legal. It was literally legal. It was the law of the land. You can still stand today and say that was wrong. It's the same thing. A lot of people can't stand today and say Michael Jordan telling Horace Grant that he couldn't eat a meal after he thought he played a bad game was wrong. You should be able to stand today and say that was wrong. Whether it was accepted back then or not, it was wrong.
And I think okay, this is the angle I'm coming from. So if it was just as simple as calling it what it is and saying like, okay, punching Steve Kerr was wrong or denying somebody a meal was wrong. Okay, you can say that from a moral standpoint, like, yeah, that's not nice. My issue is
it's not nice.
It's not nice. I can't go so far as to call it toxic just because I have an interesting perspective because I mean, me and Joe are the same age, so I can be a little biased, but I love basketball so much. I try to be as objective as possible, and I do have me and Joe are kind of similar where I have LeBron easily number two. But I give LeBron. I feel like I give LeBron a little more props than Joe gives Michael. But
I got Michael number two. I give.
So do I. I give LeBron a lot of props.
Hear me out. So this is what I'm saying. So yes, what he did may have been wrong from a moral standpoint, but in sports, this is the culture. This was the culture of
number
the day.
Two. He's got him number two.
I got
this LeBron right there.
Not number two though. Number two.
Number two is number two. It's not number three.
No, for real though. It's like yes, it could have been wrong from a moral standpoint, but that was the culture of the day. And in sports, things get chippy, things get rough, and my issue is that no leader, whether you're talking about Berry Gordy in Motown, or you talk about any organization that's risen to power, nothing has been done playing nice. Nothing has gone to the level of what we saw Michael Jordan win 6 championships, retire for a little while. He won 2 3-peats. Okay, took a break. You know what I'm saying? He ruled an entire decade, and then the decade before that, he was the man. So he took an organization that was literally complete trash and brought it to what we look at as, or a lot of people look at as perfect. We know it's not perfect, but I don't think it's really relevant to call out what he's doing as toxic when what he did produced such positive results, and the people who he affected and his quarrels were with don't even look at his behavior as toxic.
Okay, so two things you said. Yes, they do. Horace Grant said so himself. Craig Hodges said so himself. Will Perdue said so himself. These are his own teammates coming out and saying that a lot of his tactics and a lot of his ways were not okay, and that it was tight. They might have not used the word verbatim toxic, but they have come out and say that. That's number one. Number two, Bobby Knight won 3 championships. He won 1 NIT championships. He won 11 Big Ten championships, right? Bobby Knight choked kids in practice. He threw chairs at kids. He kicked kids in the leg. He hit kids on top of their head. He yelled obscenity at kids. And today, almost everyone universally who has covered that story, who was a part of that organization, has been able to look back and say, we love Bobby Knight and what he did for our university and how great of a coach he is, but the things he did were not okay, right?
Because he was a coach.
And all it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It
doesn't matter. The point is that they're able to say the things he did were not okay, even though the things he did produce results, right? And so I'm saying that's my point. Is the ends don't always justify the means. It wasn't okay for Bobby Knight to be hitting kids in the head and throwing chairs at them, even though he won 3 championships. It wasn't okay, right? Another point you said was, before I let you jump in, is, well, nothing has been achieved. You said something online, nothing has been achieved in a nice way, right? As if, and there's this, we got to dispel this thing that the Jordan way to win was the only way to win, because it's not true. It's not true. Kareem won 6. Kareem won 6 rings. Michael won 5. Bird won 3. Russell won 11. And we don't have stories of any of them punching people in the mouth and calling obscenities to their, like, we don't have all of these stories about them.
Because so nobody cares.
This idea that well, he was, because he won championships, it was okay, and we have to explain away what he did. Like you said, the where our common ground is you said, I can admit that it was wrong. That was it.
But I think all those guys that you mentioned with the championships, I think the difference with that is from Kareem to Kobe to even LeBron, there was no question that on every single championship team that Michael was on, he was the undisputed 100% leader of those teams. He was the one Scottie Pippen, that was one of my favorite players growing up. I'll never say that Scottie Pippen was nothing but a perennial all-star. He was the man. But there's no question, like even Kobe, his first 3, those were Shaq's. You look at Kareem, his last couple, he wasn't riding nobody's coaches, don't get it twisted, but Magic was the one pulling the weight. Same LeBron when
but when Magic was pulling the weight, he was winning championships and he wasn't punching people in the mouth. Neither was Russell. Neither was Bird. That's what I'm saying.
Wait. We can't be saying they weren't punching people in the mouth just because we haven't heard a story about it. People,
no, they weren't. I'm saying we don't have any. My point is we don't have any stories like this on them.
But I guarantee you, Larry. I guarantee you,
legends, so people care.
I guarantee you Larry Bird punched people in the mouth. Larry Bird is considered arguably the dirtiest player of all time.
And I'm saying his own teammates. We don't have stories.
You don't think he got in fights in practice with his teammates?
No. Getting in fight in the practice is very different from like assaulting your teammates and like by punching them in the mouth on multiple occasions, right? It's very different, right? Everybody has a fight. Like I got into a fight with my fiance a couple of days ago. I didn't punch her. I didn't hit her. So we gotta be very clear on what getting into a fight means.
But wait. Did Steve Kerr punch Michael Jordan first?
Steve Kerr pushed Michael Jordan, and then Michael Jordan punched him.
He punched him in the chest.
He in the chest, and then Michael Jordan hauled off and punched him in the face.
When you punch someone.
He did the same thing with Will Perdue, and then Will Perdue came out and had a quote. He said he was asked about that being an isolated incident, and they asked Will Perdue, were you in a situation with Michael? He said, yes, he did. He did hit me. He said, I wasn't the only one. That wasn't the only fight. There was one, that was just one of numerous fights. So this is multiple fights where teammates have said he was swinging on people, and then not just the physicality of it, but then where the bullying comes in. The bullying phrase was really about the Horace Grant situation and him telling the flight attendants that they are not to feed Horace Grant if he feels like he had a bad game. So he would come on a plane and tell them, don't feed him. That's where the bullying thing came from. That's toxic too. That's not leadership.
I'd never heard that before, and that I don't necessarily think that's. I don't necessarily think that's. No. I'm just saying I had never heard that before. My point is, I'm not saying everything he did was right. I'm just saying he was a great leader.
But some people are. That's my point. Right. Like we was on. I don't know John Joseph. Like he was literally no matter what.
I'll be honest. I do think it's funny. I do think it's funny.
Yeah, because
I do think it's funny.
It is, but he'll come out and be like, and literally, he'll explain everything. That's why I said the only thing to compare you to is the Trump supporter. Like he can come out. What do he got to say or do for you to be like, okay, that might have been wrong, right? Like,
but that's the thing. My problem with it is, and again, if I'm Horace Grant in that era, I'm going straight to Michael Jordan and I'm punching him in the face. I'm beating his ass in front of everybody.
But he talked about that. Horace came out and he talked about that, and he said the only reason why Horace Grant outweighed Michael Jordan by a couple pounds, by a ton. So he talked about that, and he did an interview on Hot 97 in 2015, and he said, and they asked him about the altercations and the abuse. He said it was a lot of verbal abuse. It was a lot of
was there verbal abuse?
Stuff that was going on with the food thing. He was like, that was Jordan kind of using his position, and he said the only reason why is because and that's what using your that's what a bully pulpit is, right? Using your position. He said the only reason why a lot of us didn't haul off and hit Jordan is because we know that we had mouths to feed and our ass would have been out of there, right? That's what a bully pulpit is. Using your position to threaten somebody and knowing that they don't have the leverage to do anything. He said, if I hit Jordan, I'm out of there. Already
it's like being in the military.
He tried that on Rob Parrish as well, and Rob Parrish was straight up like, I dare you to touch me. Yeah. So, you know, it's like it's one of those situations where, like, I think you're right. This is an extreme comparison, but what I will give you is it is kind of like the Me Too situation where a man doesn't have to do anything to whatever, you know, you can get in a woman's head and bully them like that. So yes, It was a bit of that going on.
It's manipulation. Like manipulation is manipulation.
It's a little bit of manipulation, but you know,
a lot of manipulation.
You know, I used to be in this activity called Drum and Bugle Corps. It was a very, very intense activity. And when I came in as a rookie, harmless hazing type of stuff happened to get you to perform well. You know what I'm saying? You go in to go to sleep and your air mattress got a hole in it because you've been ticking your balls off all day. Right. And, you know what I'm saying? You wake up, you got a bad back, you know, I don't want to, you know, stuff like that. So you take that and magnify it to the NBA level. You got to remember, these guys was like 25 to 28 years old, young, immature, you know. So yes, like we said, I do think in some ways that from a morale standpoint, it wasn't nice, but I don't think it's fair to call him out on it and hold him so responsible when we've seen NBA leaders from Kobe and LeBron be pretty piss poor leaders in the name of trying to motivate their teammates to play well.
I don't think we've seen anything to this extent, and I think that it's only valid to call him out on it simply because if it was in today's age, it would be all over everywhere. If LeBron James told somebody they couldn't eat, it would be on CNN. It wouldn't even be on sports news. It would be on TMZ. It would be everywhere. And so I think now it's really
the eating thing though. We're talking about the eating thing, but if we take that out because it's mainly about the fighting. There's video on.
It's about all of it. It was about. I know. It's about because.
But I'm saying if we remove the eating thing, obviously, yeah, that's a shitty thing to do. I still think it's funny. But Kobe Bryant's, there's videos all over YouTube of him punching teammates and getting in fights with teammates. This was a normal. Steve Kerr said 4 to 5. Every team he was on, college and NBA, 4 or 5 fights per year, fist fights.
So
it happens.
I want us to differentiate what we're talking about here, because we're not just talking about people getting into scuffles with teammates in sports. It happens all over sports. This is not the same thing, right? There was a quote from Michael Jordan before this documentary came out, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard it. And he said, "I'm afraid this doc will make me look like a horrible guy." There's a reason why he said that. He said that because he has a history of all of these things combined, whether it was using his power to do something to somebody, whether it was a physical thing, whether it was a verbal thing, whatever it was, it's been stories and stories that's been come out over the years that have come to a culmination with this documentary that's kind of sparked this conversation, right? So it's definitely, if this was just the run of a mill, having a tough practice, nobody would be talking about this. And I think that we got to differentiate, and I think that it's only right to call him out on it, because like we talked about in the beginning of this segment, he didn't grow up in a social media age, right? We don't have to call LeBron James out on anything because the media will do it. Twitter will do it. You get on Facebook, Facebook will do it.
It's not just
Jordan didn't go through that. So it's only been in books or in documentaries or in newspaper articles from ages ago. And so now he's getting called out on it because this is the social media age. And so
he's getting called out on it by a generation that, you know, like you brought up Bob.
It's everybody though.
It's not everybody.
It's
not everybody.
It's not. You are if you're watching sports shows or you're reading the blogs, it's people of all ages that are calling him out on this.
Yeah, but it's gonna be
a millennial thing. This is old guys. This is young guys.
But it's gonna be a demographic. Well, old guys that lived through Michael's playing days, if they're surprised by anything out there, they didn't pay attention.
It's not about the surprise part. It's about the fact that they're calling what he was doing wrong. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, again. That's going to be a certain demographic, because there's going to be a very big demographic is going to be like
it's people from all over. It's just the way people.
I know, but I'm saying it's not. You're acting like it's everybody. It's not. You just said it's everybody. It's not everybody. It's a demographic of people that are going to say he's just like the arguments on Facebook. There's going to be people saying defending it, and there's going and then
no. When I use the term everybody, I mean this is not just a millennial thing. This is not just the age.
I understand, but
what the people who are calling him out are from all them. They're white, they're black, they're old, they're young.
I know, but I'm saying, but my point, but that's not what I mean by demographic. I'm talking about views of a certain viewing things in a certain way. There's gonna be plenty of people, again, like we see in the arguments on Facebook, who think it's totally fine. I don't think it's totally fine. Most of it I'm totally fine with because of the culture of the day. He lived in a day when you go to college and you can get hazed. Now you can't do that. Kids have died.
Right, and so now we can look back and say that hazing got stopped because we can look back and say that was wrong.
No,
and that's all I'm doing.
No, you can't.
I'm saying it was wrong.
You can't, because hazing isn't wrong. Hazing done in a certain way is wrong. And in
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
You're saying, what are you talking about?
The hazing that got stopped that was done in a certain way was wrong. The hazing where you were locking kids up in dark basements and not allowing them to go to the back. And I'm saying that today that stuff got stopped because we can look back and say it was wrong. For some reason, because Michael Jordan's name is attached to it, we can't look back and be like, well, that was wrong. You should be able to.
No, I mean, I just think that's just the thing, man. It's like you can look at it and say it was wrong, or it was not nice, but I can't call it toxic though, because are we going to look back 20 years when we're old and we look back 20 years and we look at some of the stuff that I understand Twitter will call it out, but we look at LeBron walking in with a glass of wine, or LeBron throwing a temper tantrum on the bench after JR screws up royally, and essentially, or LeBron completely destroying the chemistry in his locker room in lieu of a trade for Anthony Davis. Those things, to me, we don't live in a day where everything is so physical. So to me, that stuff is on the same level as what Jordan was doing. No, it
can't be. You can't say somebody trying to trade for one of the best free agents in the league is the same as Michael Jordan telling somebody that they can't eat a meal after a game because he's using his that's not the same thing. Because that happens all the time, and that doesn't happen all the time. People don't. There aren't stories of the best player on teams going to the food staff and telling them that don't serve anybody who had a bad game. That's dangerous. We can't start.
We're talking about
we can't start making. We can't start. No. I'm dangerous.
No. We're talking about. We're talking about on a flight.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying. Hold on.
Horace Grant.
I'm not saying the Horace Grant not eating thing is dangerous. I said the thing that's dangerous is trying to make everything on one level. I'm saying that's dangerous. Like the fact that you can punch somebody in the mouth and say it's the same as you being upset with somebody because J.R. Smith made a bad play, and it's the same as LeBron saying something like that's not the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like let's keep it. You know what I mean? Let's not get too carried away. Like
walked up to Steve Kerr was like, "You suck," and punch him. That's one thing. They got in a fight, Mike G. Like
he punched Will Perdue like that. That's how that fight happened. And Will Perdue came out and said this happened all the time. He said Jordan was doing this type of stuff all the time.
One thing that I wanted to bring up, because again, I'm not going to sit here and say everything he did was right.
Oh, that's what we're talking
about. But I will say, and this is it's interesting when conversations come up on social media or in person or whatever, when we talk about certain things, the things that are important. And I'll use another example that Joe and I were discussing the other day about Zion and Duke. When you see something and immediately your mind goes a certain way and feels a certain way about it, and then another person goes a different direction. What I mean is, just bringing up, we can get into the Duke thing later, but when you read that Zion Williamson may have received gifts or the family may have received gifts, your immediate thing was, yeah, I don't really care, because we both feel that players should be getting paid anyway, especially Zion, especially players that go to Duke. And you're just like, and we're headed that direction anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. My first thing went to Coach K, because he's from a generation and a program and his own legacy and beliefs that's not supposed to be happening. So my thing was, yeah, I'm okay with him getting paid, and I think all these guys should be getting paid. But if it somehow comes out that he did get paid, and obviously they'll never connect it directly to Coach K, but my point is, does the Duke program take a legacy, and does Coach K's legacy, take a hit, and does Coach K's legacy take a hit? And with the MJ thing, my whole thing is when I see these things in the documentary and see people's posts, my thing goes to, okay, But what does that mean? Meaning, okay, yeah, this can be considered toxic depending on how you look at it. And a lot of his stuff is pretty much can only be seen as toxic. But at the same time, he was an amazing leader. And that's the first thing that I always think of.
Well, I wouldn't call him an amazing leader, but I think it
was an amazing leader.
I think it goes
because amazing leaders don't get non-amazing leaders don't get amazing results. It literally doesn't happen ever.
That's not true. That's what I'm saying. That's
true.
That's what we were talking about the ends. The ends justifying the mean, right? Like I brought up Coach Bobby Knight. Like Coach Bobby Knight won 3 championships and all of that stuff, but he wasn't an amazing leader. Like I don't think that
Bobby Knight was an amazing leader.
I don't think that. Okay, well, we can agree to. I don't think that any leader that's punching and hitting my kid, I don't call him an amazing leader.
That doesn't mean that doesn't mean
you can win something without being a great leader. You know what I mean? Like,
but my point is, doing those things, even though those things we're talking about are wrong with Coach Knight, it's not the same. It doesn't mean he's not a great leader. Is my point. He did do things wrong. Everyone makes mistakes, but that doesn't mean he's categorically not a great leader. Because if he wasn't a great leader, they wouldn't have won those 3 championships.
I think for a lot of people, it's just coming full circle back to what we were talking about in the beginning. It's just when you go, well, so what? Like what? So what now? It's just making Jordan more realistic, more human, more real, right? Because like I said, a lot of times I hear when I'm in these arguments with people on Twitter, Facebook, he's perfect, he's pristine. He's never done any, whether it was the failures, whether it was the finals losses, whether it was the first round losses, or whether it was missed shots, or whether it was fighting his teammates, whatever it was always
poor teammates.
It was always he's perfect.
And
so I think that now with this stuff coming out, that's the effect that's what's causing a lot of the conversation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like,
absolutely.
Okay, wait a minute. Yeah. He wasn't perfect and he did do things wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's
absolutely.
That's where
we can agree on that 100%.
A lot of people don't want to hear that though. A lot of people,
yeah, no, and you're right, and that's why a lot of the conversations we have, we're arguing, but he's not arguing with me and what I'm saying. He's arguing with what all the other people are saying.
True. This is true.
Because they're ridiculous. People get so stupid and over the top ridiculous that it's like, we want to, because I do the same thing. I hated Twitter before, and now I'm on Twitter going back and forth with guys, and just the stupidity that comes out of some of these guys' mouths.
You hear some of the craziest shit online on Twitter about no matter what you say, and it's like, wait a minute, what? Like if I just call a spade, then you crazy, or you want to murder the guy and all that stuff. Go ahead.
I want to comment on that because I feel bad for Mike because the reason that you have so many of these cats that are so over the top, like Jordan was perfect, is because this is what the media created this godlike image for him.
100%.
Be like
MJ doesn't say those things about
him. He don't say anything.
He wanted the bread, but that was never his intention to be this.
MJ with that, I don't want you to lose where you are, but with that quote before the doc came out where he said, "I'm afraid people are going to think that I'm a horrible person." That's him admitting that the shit he did was wrong. Like that's him. He was afraid. He was afraid that people will see it and go fuck. Like because he admitted. It's not
admitting. It's him knowing how some people are going to perceive it.
He admitted that some of the things he did in other interviews and stuff that I've seen, that this is before the documentary. Because some like you to your point, some of these things I've heard these things before. You know what I'm saying? And when he talks about the Steve Kerr thing, he said he was wrong. Even in the documentary, he said, "Give me Steve Kerr's number because that was wrong." You know what I'm saying? So exactly, I'm saying even Jordan doesn't agree with some of the Twitter trolls that says everything he did was right, because Jordan himself is like, "I was wrong." You know what I'm saying? I wasn't perfect.
For me, what makes that situation ultimately okay is that he didn't do to me, I still look at just the Kerr incident isolated. I look at they got heated and they got in a fight. Should he have hit him in the eye? Should he have gave him an equal chest punch? Maybe, but they got in a fight. Whatever the case is, if he had just let that situation fester and never address it, I would have looked at it at that as 100% toxic. But because he called him, he apologized, and they moved forward with an even better chemistry than before, I respect that. And I look at the entire situation as, you chop that up to, that you're a family. You get into it.
Yeah, and that's kind of, again, to go with the leadership thing. To me, leadership isn't not making mistakes. It's not that you don't do something wrong. But the Steve Kerr story, again, that's isolated. I don't know how he handled every incident. I don't know. Maybe he didn't handle every incident right long term. But Steve saying he apologized, we talked about it, and he said I apologized, and then we were actually tighter because of it. And that's the thing that a lot of people when they go in on MJ, they don't realize is that people going through things, someone does something wrong, somebody else does something wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. They work it out, and now they're friends, and now they're tighter, and they're going to go to battle better. And that's why I brought up the military thing earlier, is because, dude, go check out a military camp. Nothing what they're doing is right. Nothing about what they are doing to get these people motivated and to get them. I mean, you just sold your life to the military. They can do whatever the hell they want. None of it's right. But after going through all these things together, these soldiers that are in training, they're pissed off. They're fighting each other. They come through as a tight-knit group because of what they went through together and because they're all growing up as men and dealing with trials and tribulations, together. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to do everything right along the way, but the end result.
I think with MJ, it's not people trying to jump on, trying to find a chink in the armor and go, oh, it was everything. I think with MJ, it wasn't by his own teammates' admission. He had a history of these things, so that's why when I look at him and go, he wasn't an amazing leader. It's because you can, like I said, I just named 4 or 5 legendary all-stars.
Did any of those guys say
who don't have a history of these things? No, I'm saying that's not good leadership to me. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, you can get results and then look back and say I should have done some things differently. Just because you get to a result doesn't mean you did everything right to get you there. That's my thing.
I agree. I feel that, Joe. But to your point, I truly don't believe that in that era and in that style of play and the way you look at the way the Celtics play, you look at the way the Knicks played, the Detroit Pistons played, I don't think that they would have gotten the same results moving forward without that type of leadership.
I do. We can.
Why didn't anybody else get it then?
They did. I just said it. the Lakers, the Celtics, like I did. Like other teams won championships. You know what I'm saying? Other leaders led their teams. Other leaders led their teams to championships and didn't necessarily use those tactics. So it's not.
That's
we
true,
can't
but,
do the whole.
That's
the only way to do it. Like it wasn't the only way to do it.
I don't think that's the only way to do it.
But Bad Boy Pistons wasn't fighting each other like that.
we don't know that because there's nobody on that team.
Yes, they were.
No, they weren't.
Yes, they were.
No, they weren't.
Have you seen the Pistons documentary?
Yeah.
They were getting in fist fights in practice almost every day.
No. I'm saying with one leader, the way Jordan using his position to quote unquote pick on other teammates and stuff. That's not Isaiah Thomas wasn't doing that.
Well, we don't know.
You get what I'm saying? Like it's a difference. Like
necessarily, we know that Michael Jordan was a maniacal. He says it but I knew this already before. It's like he was obsessed with winning the ball games, and he was just like, I'll do whatever it takes. I don't think that
everybody's. We just can't explain things away by saying they wanted to win bad, right? Like it's like when somebody cheats, and then we go, well, he just really wanted to win. Like so the guy who didn't cheat didn't want to win. You know what I'm saying? Like
no, but I don't think that
Magic wanted to win too. Like you know what I mean? Like
assume that he was saying, I'm Michael Jordan, so I'm gonna pick on you because I'm Michael Jordan. I really believe that this dude
I think he knew his position. I think he's not a dumb guy.
That's a mentality though.
He knew nobody could touch him back. You think he would be picking on somebody who's twice his size and doubling his weight, not thinking this guy can't. He knew Horace Grant can't hit me back.
That's a mentality thing too, because I believe if you're not cheating, you're not trying to win 100%. That's my mentality. So that's not everybody's mentality, but so that's a perspective thing. And some people go, I don't want the win if I have to cheat to get it. I'm like, I want the win no matter what. Period. And that was their mentality. And
because you cheat don't mean that you want it more than somebody who wants to win and not be suspended maybe for half their career. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make you a hungrier. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, I could argue it actually makes you more hungry, as wrong as it is.
No, like, sometimes some people would say it makes you stupider. Like
100%. If you're willing to cheat, but you I cannot sleep at night if I don't win this damn game.
But there's a reason. Guys like we talk about other guys that have won other ways, and that's the thing is you got to be true to your own leadership style too. There isn't just one leadership style. So asking MJ to be a leader like Magic was, and Magic wasn't nice either. I don't know about punching guys in the face. I know that there were fights happening in practice. I don't know about Magic, but it's also a mentality. Some guys aren't fighters physically, but they'll fight on the court, meaning they'll go to battle with you on the court. But it's 6 championships.
It's just ways to do it, and like I said, even Jordan would admit that that some of the things he did he shouldn't have done. So that's all. And the frustration with people like me is other people won't admit that. Like Jordan himself can admit, like I should have did that differently, and other people are like, nope, 6 championships, 6 and it's like.
I can relate to that because like you'll be on here and some people are going so LeBron. It's like, dude, I'm not saying he's not great,
right?
But but you're taking me saying that he might not be the greatest ever as like a personal.
It's like you hate him.
And we end up going back and forth on Twitter. And I'm like, bro, like,
no
one's saying he's not great. If I say anything about MJ, you fly off the handle because that immediately means LeBron doesn't do. I mean, it's just, it's crazy.
I think that's where Joe's frustration comes from is like, this is a great
it is. Yeah.
Because we can go back and forth and have a charming back and forth about it. But I think that not most, I don't know most, but a lot of cats that are like hardcore Jordan take anything negative about him as saying
as a slight. It's like as a slight.
Look, at this.
Like you, 2 things can. The one thing Uncle Shannon I love say is 2 things can be true. Like that's his thing. He say 2 things can. Jordan can be. If Jordan is the GOAT to you, Jordan can be the all-time great.
I'm not changing Joe's mind. And Joe's not changing my mind.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. But he can be all-time great and still be a flawed individual. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think a lot of that's the disconnect where people like.
Can I say something? I want to get your guys' take because I know how I felt about it. But I want to hear you guys first. When you saw MJ get emotional at the end of episode 7, not talking about a death in the family, not talking about the loss of his dad or any like personal thing, talking about the way he played the game. Starting to cry like he lost a child.
Talking about people not liking it, like
right. What did you feel on the inside, deep down inside? What did you feel in your heart and soul, Joe?
I thought he seriously felt like he has I really enjoyed that moment because it really showed to the passion for the game that he has even still today and the conviction that he has for his intent, right? Like a lot of times it's funny because I was a couple of days ago, me and my fiance watched this show called Family or Fiance that comes out on OWN. And there was a lady, one of the girls was talking to her mother about, their relationship and how she felt things could have been better. And the mom, she wasn't even going that hard at the mom, but the mom started crying and she started crying and all she was saying was, I just tried the best I could. It was about her childhood. I just tried the best I could. I did all that I could. And the mom kept crying and everybody kind of was in a room like, why is she crying? Like all the girl is saying is, X, Y, and Z. And I think and I said to my fiance, I said, I think what the mom is crying because she feels like all she can think about is the struggle in her intent. And she knows that her intent was good and pure. And she knows that the passion that she had for her daughter, but to hear that her daughter might not think that, she did 100% a great job, or to think that, somebody might be saying that, I didn't think that I think you could have did something better was really hurting her. And I felt the same way in that point of Jordan. Like I felt like he felt like I tried my damnness to win. And even admitting that some things I could have did better, I think it kind of hurt him to hear that maybe even teammates or people that he cared about might have felt differently about his execution. And I think that's why the tears came from. It was a really interesting moment to me. I enjoyed it though. I thought it was super cool.
I did too, because I was actually talking about just emotionally.
Yeah.
When that happened, I got emotional.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because it was like, oh shoot, because part of what you said is a different issue with it, which actually is really a cool way to look at it. But I looked at it like this guy wanted to win so bad. He just all he cared about was winning and greatness, and he was just obsessed with it. And not everyone understands caring about something that much, caring about a game that much.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But when I saw it, I just had this vision of Joe rolling his eyes. What had happened? He's like, oh God, now we're getting emotional.
No, but, I knew. I felt that. It's funny because I think I had just seen that other show like a day before, and that's literally where I went. I just went to this place of like it's like it's like when you tell your parent, I think that you could have did this better, and all they thinking is, well, I tried, and you're like,
right.
I'm not saying that you weren't a great parent. I'm just saying you could have did this better. But
Right.
I think the fact that they put their effort and their heart into raising you, and there might be an inkling that you might think that they, did something wrong. Sometimes, a lot of times, it hurts the individual to the point of tears.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's a really interesting perspective on. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right, because a very interesting part of what he said in there was, I wanted to win, but I wanted them to experience the winning too. Because when you watch him, see, this is the other thing that I think about when I read some of these comments. Like, when they're winning and they're experiencing this thing that very few people on the planet get to experience, being a champion, being an NBA champion, something that you grow up playing in your driveway with a dream of someday being an NBA champion. There is nothing but smiles. They're hugging. They're crying together. Yeah. So it's like, I think, even though, yes, he wanted to win for himself, absolutely, but he playing for Dean Smith, playing at North Carolina, he also was a team guy. Even though he was mean to teammates, he was also a team guy. He loved being on a team. He loves the team aspect. He loves seeing those guys being happy about winning. You
saw it when he went to baseball. He loved being on that team. He just wanted to be a part of, that camaraderie.
And he's bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Bottom of the barrel. He's just there to learn and be on the team and be on the bus, and just travel with the guys. Like that was a pretty eye-opening thing too. But what a moment, man. That moment, I was like, whoa, what is this happening right now?
Yeah, right.
Is MJ crying? Because the only times we've seen him cry is in relation to the game of basketball and overcoming obstacles. And dude, the scene where he is this like heaving in tears after he won, that's a famous moment.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen the footage where you can hear it.
Yeah.
Dude, that is insane to me, because we've all seen it, but it looks like it could just be overdone when you just see it without the audio.
Just the clip, yeah.
When you hear the audio, there's nothing overdone about it. He's just, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty. I thought that moment was really well done. Just from a executed standpoint, like they show him and he's just kind of just reflecting on all his years of playing. And I think in that moment, I smiled, because I was like, in this moment, I think that this man is looking at all these years of him playing and realizing I was a maniac. Mm-hmm. Like I was a maniac, and all I could think about was, what do I got to do to win? You know what I'm saying? Was he perfect? And he's realizing I wasn't perfect, but I really just wanted to win. And these were like his kids. Those 2 3P teams were essentially two different teams. Minus
they were. Uh-huh.
So he's like that. I think he was reflecting on the second 3P. Really, is just like, I wanted them to feel that, and it's like, I ain't gonna put him on the same level as a Joe Jackson, but like any parent that wants their kids that knows their kids can do something, he was trying to do that, and he's realizing, like, I know people is gonna look at this and think I'm like an animal monster. Right. I'm really not. I just. And I that's what I was saying to myself. Like, this is what he's feeling. This is what he's thinking.
That's what he was feeling. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah,
that's
good perspective.
That was dope though. It was dope to see. I'm really looking forward to episodes 9 and 10. So it wraps up this weekend. So that's gonna be fun to see how that ends up. Okay, so let's move to we got a little time left to get to a couple more things. Let's move to what's going on with the NBA, the rest of the NBA season. So Shaq, Charles Barkley, George Karl, and Jason Williams all came out. Jay Williams, different person. Jay Williams all came out and said that they think that the NBA should cancel the rest of the season, which I think is crazy. But they were just basically stating, issues with trying to make everything safe, with, even quarantining the teams and all this other stuff. They just said that it's too dangerous. It doesn't make sense. And then they even went as far as to say that even if we do end up finishing the season and crowning a champion, people won't respect the champion because there will be an asterisk next to it because it was the abbreviated playoffs or whatever. How do y'all feel about that?
Man, it's tough because some of these feelings, and I'm not really a political guy, but this has opened my eyes to a lot of things, dealing with how everyone's dealt with the COVID. From a personal standpoint, a health and safety standpoint, it's ridiculous because all the studies, all the things coming back are just saying, look, and a lot of experts said this in the beginning, this is just going to run its course. So if you're old or you're compromised health-wise, you should absolutely be staying home and be doing everything you can to stay healthy. But if you're, of a certain age, demographic, and health, it's either you're gonna, like, I probably have had COVID. So while we've been in quarantine, I've been out working, I've been out doing deliveries. I probably had COVID.
I think me and my fiance had it when we got back from Vegas.
I mean, me and my baby had it. I swear.
A lot, and I've heard so many people say that. The reality is, most people, if not all, probably had it. It's just a matter of who it's going to affect or not. So from a personal and health standpoint, it's stupid to me. Staying in quarantine right now, making people stay home till August is I'm beside myself after seeing that today. But the problem is, it's a business with the NBA. You got to deal with lawsuits. You got to deal with stuff. So if one person ends up getting sick and you can tie it to the fact that they opened up and had a playoff, then that's what they have to worry about. That's the thing. And I guess I understand from that standpoint. But in my opinion, NBA should be happening right now. Playoffs, championship, no asterisk next to a champion because
they're all dealing with it.
Well, yeah, and everyone's just been sitting at home or whatever, having an opportunity to get better if you had injuries. So now everyone's at full strength.
Yeah.
Let them get in shape. Let them get in NBA shape, do a playoff, champion, no asterisk.
Hey, I agree with what both you guys are saying. I feel like before, a couple weeks ago, I was absolutely against canceling the season. But as we get further and further along, I don't know if I trust the NBA to come up with something clever enough to actually be able to come up with like some sort of a playoff series, or in the regular season, come up with a playoff series and crown a champion where most people won't look at it like there's an asterisk. Us three might not look at it like that, but let's take LeBron for instance.
Anybody whose team had a chance to win that didn't will have an asterisk next to
How about that? That's what I was thinking.
That's true, but that's the thing. You look at a team like, I don't know, Phoenix, like they could care less. But you look at LeBron, like canceling the season really affects them. But at the same time, if I'm gonna see LeBron win another championship, because I'm rooting for him this year. Like what he's done is crazy. But I know that a lot of haters are gonna be like, oh, dude, y'all, take 3 months out of the season, all of a sudden y'all just come back and run through the playoffs. Of course y'all was gonna win because you know what I'm saying. Look at you, So I don't know. I'm kind of like, do we just scrap it? Like, I mean, things already suck as it is.
I probably have a little bit more, and I'm sure Joe can relate to this a lot. The reason it really bothers me is because I live in – one reason it really bothers me. It puts it over the top for me. It already would bother me. But I'm in L.A. LeBron's here. He has an opportunity, and a lot of people consider them the favorite to go get number 4. And that's huge for his legacy. And if he does – this opportunity might slip them by – and then they might not be in that position again next year or ever again. And so he's sitting with 3. And, the difference between 3 and 4 might not be that big of a deal. But I think it's a big deal. Winning championships with three different organizations is a very big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As the main guy. Has that ever been done?
I don't think
so. I don't think so. As far as being like the man?
I think he'd be the first to do it.
Like Robert Horry did it, but he wasn't
as a
role player.
MVP or something. Yeah.
That bothers me.
Because Kawhi could also do it this year too.
Yeah,
right, true.
Yeah,
true,
he can.
Right.
He can.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of torn in the point of like I understand the implications as far as like you were saying, JT, with legally being a business, being a mega business, right? Having to employ hundreds, thousands of people, and having to figure out how to make all of these cogs work together, right? I understand their hesitation with that, and I understand the hesitation with health-wise, thinking, what if, it's because this thing is quote unquote the silent killer. You can be asymptomatic and you can be a carrier of it. You could be asymptomatic, have full-blown COVID, not know, pass it to somebody else. And so they're worried about that. And then they're I'm pretty sure that they're in close contact or in communication with the CDC as these things are happening. And if you've been following this thing, like it seems like it's a different disease every day. Like it morphs into, it's been mutating, they said. Right. So at first they thought the 14-day period would be enough to know if you had it or not. And then they said that some guy ended up like doing the 14-day thing, nothing happened, but it was longer. Like it went on
Right.
to like 30 days, and they were like, wait, it was the first time it ever happened. And
Right.
so it just seems like nobody knows what the hell is going on. Nobody knows how to gauge it. It new information is coming up every day. So I understand it on that standpoint, but I also understand like where you were saying, JT, where it's like at some point we're gonna have to carry on and live life. Like at some point, like at some point we're gonna
the numbers and stats are showing that it's not as bad as it was expected to be. It didn't kill anywhere near as many people as we thought it would. It's a virus that isn't going away. We could deal with COVID again next summer.
That's the thing that I was about to say. Like, you know, because there's no vaccine and they have no time frame for a vaccine from everything that I've seen. We don't really know when there's going to be a cure, so to speak, for this. And so I think like, okay, I think the NBA can find a common ground and say, okay, if the CDC says no gathering more than 10 people, we won't have stadiums full of people. We'll play the games in empty arenas, which they're talking about. We'll, you know, quarantine the teams. They won't be able to see their families until after the playoffs or whatever. I just think that I'm in favor of finishing the season, partly because there is a bias here. I do live in LA. I am a LeBron fan, and I do think this is his chance to win another championship, and I'm going to be pissed with the basketball gods if he doesn't get it, because it's like
well, listen, I for my sake, because Joe and I just started this podcast and we plan on it going on for a long time. Yeah. I really hope they open the season, because I do not want to hear for the rest of my life,
bro,
that LeBron James didn't get his fourth ring in 2020.
Because of the
goddamn COVID. I don't want to hear about this.
But
he's
you know,
just he won four. He won four. It was COVID. He's got 4 rings.
Food for thought is this. LeBron missed the playoffs last year, right?
Uh-huh.
Look what he came back like. We have to understand, I think that we're dealing with I've always said this, I've said it to Joe before, we're dealing with a freak of nature from a genetic standpoint. Like, absolutely. I think that if the season did get canceled, now we're going to see, yes, 18 years in, but who would have thought he would have been playing like this at 15 years in? So one more year with almost a year of rest, we might, who knows? I know
it could, but the problem is, his athleticism could literally fall off a cliff like that.
That's the other thing.
Because he's so durable, but at some point, it just stops.
It sounds cliche, but Father Time always wins, right? So it's like it's the truth. Like you don't see it coming. Sometimes it just hits. So it's like he could be coasting, you know, for another 6 to 8 months, and then he could come back next year and just not be, you know what I'm saying? Like not be the guy that we.
The good thing about LeBron, similar to MJ, because when you saw MJ when he came back, you know, 39, 40 years old, because he was stronger and he was always a big guard, he could use his intellect and his skills to still produce at a fairly high level. I mean, he averaged 22 points a game or something like that with the Wizards. But LeBron's even bigger than that. And even if, you know, he's not 100% of what he used to be, but he might be 85, 90. Yeah. Even if he's 70, 75, he's still better than 80% of the people in the league, right?
And the other thing is, everyone is going through this at the same time. So to me, the asterisk conversation it's nonsense to me, because it's like, who has the advantage? No one has an advantage. No one can go to a practice facility. No one can go and start, you know, doing scrimmages and stuff like that with others.
That's stupid.
No, they're not.
I don't remember the exact time frame, but the Spurs won their first championship against the Knicks, which I still don't know how the Knicks made it to the finals that year. But which is part of one of the reasons I think people talk smack about that season. But that was a shortened season because of the strike.
Yeah, the Spurs and Duncan have a shortened season one. Yeah.
But did they put an asterisk next? I don't hear anyone put an asterisk next to that one.
I actually have.
Have you?
People discredit his first Tim Duncan's first championship. I don't agree with it, but I actually have heard that.
Oh, you've heard it. I thought you were saying. I thought you were saying you put an asterisk
one there. Yeah.
And I don't know that if this year, I don't think that they would actually put one next to it.
No.
Just some
Just for people,
yeah.
just for just for the trolls and stuff. And I just feel like everybody is going through this together. So I don't see how anybody has an advantage because it's screwing everybody equally. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the podcast, this pandemic is the ultimate equalizer. Like everybody is going through this.
True. The only reason, which is actually a good argument, there would be an asterisk is because not all teams because not all states would be opening at the same time. So right now, if you're in Florida, I'm just saying off the top of my head, I don't know what all the rules are everywhere, but Orlando Magic can probably could probably open up facilities right now, whereas maybe the Lakers can't. So that's where, okay, well, if you can get back in shape or you can start practicing and strategizing sooner than we can, that's an advantage. Which is
I think
true.
the NBA, the governing body of the, we were talking about this with the college football and their issue being not having one sole governing body. I think with the NBA, because they have a one sole governing body, they can regulate that. They can say we're not allowing any teams to practice or any teams to gather or have contact until all states or all teams are able to. Or they were even talking about flying everyone to one location. Like they were talking about Vegas, like having everybody just go to Vegas.
That would be great
in certain places, and then they'll like the March Madness tournament, like do it something like that, So there's ways to do it. But I definitely want to see them continue and try to get some type of, even if they do the first round, go back to best of five. First round. Like I'm down with, let's do, abbreviate it, whatever.
I honestly think it should go back to that. Period.
Yeah, 7 games
me
is
too.
Too long anyway.
Me too, because it's just prolonging the blowouts for most people. Like that's it. Like that makes sense. Okay, so let's hop on the NFL schedules were released this past week, and there's obviously the big GOAT is the situation with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So before we get out of here. And touch on a couple more things. I want us to check out those schedules and get your idea, get your take on where you think a lot of these teams are going to land and with these schedules and even the division. We got the Bucs schedule here. How do you think the Bucs are gonna fare this year after seeing their schedule? I had them at 10-6.
You had them at
and I think they're
wins.
And I think they're losing the division to the Saints.
Wait. You had them at 10? No. Oh, I did this wrong. You had them at 9 wins, missing the playoffs. I had them at 10 wins, win division. Rhino has win division, 11 wins.
I can give them after seeing the schedule, I give them 10 wins.
You give them 10 wins?
And I think they lose the division to the Saints. I think the Saints still win the division.
Okay, 10 wins. Still miss playoffs?
I mean, now that I think about the playoff situation, there's an extra slot with the playoffs, isn't there?
True.
There's like an extra wild card situation or something like
True.
that. So, I mean, I can see them maybe getting in a wild card spot. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I can give them that wild card.
Al, this is fun for me because this is like when Joe and I guessed on the horse competition. And he had a first pick, but then he also had a second pick.
I sure did. Okay. I sure did, and I almost hit on my second pick.
Yeah. So I actually haven't looked at this schedule, but glancing over it, 1, 2.
I think I just don't see them
at a glance. I mean, look, they're playing. I would pick them over. If I was betting money, I would pick them over the Bears, the Chargers, the Giants, the Panthers. The Panthers, again, obviously, they play them twice. I would pick them over the Jaguars. I would pick them over the Vikings. I would pick them over the Rams. Are they playing the Rams? 23rd?
Yeah, they are playing the Rams.
And I would pick them over the Lions, and I would pick them over the I mean, that's 10 wins right there. Obviously, those aren't all going to happen, but
yeah,
I would say – and it's tough, man, because the more I think about the squad they have and the more I think about the fact that Drew Brees wasn't completely himself last year, I would – if I were to change – I'm going to leave what I said in the first place, 10
How many
wins, win
you said
division.
10?
But it wouldn't surprise me if they
You
ended
got
up
to win in the division?
I said 10 wins, win in the division because to me
Over
it's
the Saints, I don't think they're gonna do that.
yeah, because it's only the Saints, and really the Saints, they're relying on Drew Brees to still be Drew Brees, which we even saw last year. He was kind of falling. So I just think it's a little more even, and I think they could pull it off. I was being a little ambitious with it, but
that first game in September 13th to the Saints.
is that in at the Saints?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a loss, but I think they'll win at home.
Yeah.
And I mean that's a pretty easy schedule, guys, on paper. I didn't even pick them to beat the Broncos, and I would say they probably beat the Broncos, although they are in Denver. But I didn't even pick them to beat the Browns.
I can't see them winning more than 10 games this season.
But even looking at the schedule, though,
yeah,
this is a crazy easy schedule.
I don't think it's crazy. I mean, they got the Rams. That's going to be a tough game. The Broncos going to be a tough game. Obviously the Saints. The Vikings are on here. The Falcons are on here.
What's the Joe? What's
Packers
the
are on here.
Oh, never mind. That's the home away thing. Okay. Man, I just think a lot of these teams. I mean, do you think the Panthers are going to beat them?
I think they can split with the Panthers, but I think the Panthers might get. I would pick the Panthers to get one. The Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to be sneaky good this season. Like I think they're gonna be all right.
They do have the greatest / only great white running back.
They got the great white hope. They do. The Panthers got the great white hope, dude. They do. So I don't know.
I don't know, man. This schedule, I think they got this, dude. I think they got this.
I definitely want to see. I definitely want to see it play out, but I feel like 10 wins is where they're at. Let's check out the Niners schedule real quick.
Let's do that. Niners.
Your Niners. I put the Niners. We were talking on Facebook with Rick about this. I put the Niners at 10 wins too. I think the Niners go 10-6.
Well, I think they've improved their team, and I really like John Lynch, the GM.
He had them winning 12 games.
I think. What's that?
He had them winning 12. I think Rick said the Niners are winning 12 games this year.
He had them at 12. I mean, I'll just go over the ones that look like no-brainers. Obviously, you don't know until the season starts, but I got to move this window here. Falcon. Well, of course they're going to beat the freaking Eagles. Eagles suck.
Never. They're never.
Cardinals.
Pencil that week 4 loss in now.
That should be a good game, and we have to watch that game live.
Oh, for sure.
Together. Cardinals, Jets, Giants, Dolphins. I say they split with the Rams. So there's one. I say they beat the Patriots. I say they split with Seattle. I say they beat the Redskins, Dallas. I say they beat the Saints, and I say they beat Buffalo. That's 11 wins. So yeah.
I'm not mad at that.
I'll say 10 wins because it never goes as planned. I'll say they go 10 wins, and I think that wins the division. And I say they make it at least to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Let's check out MVP odds that recently came out before we get out of here.
How high is Garoppolo?
Invisible on this list. Can't find him. Don't see him.
Okay, hold on. Can we say something real quick? We have Dak Prescott on the list, but we don't have Jimmy Garoppolo.
I don't understand at all. Like Dak Prescott third on the list?
That's ridiculous.
I don't get that. Like why?
It's also ridiculous in my opinion, even though I think he's a winner, to have Tom Brady on this list because he's not going to put up MVP numbers and the team isn't going to be that ridiculously good that you're going to overlook Patrick. I mean, that's just stupid.
I think Tom Brady is going to be valuable in this conversation because of the story.
No, that for sure.
Right.
That for
because
sure.
of the narrative. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think him being 40-something years old, changing teams, being away from Bill Belichick, getting Gronk back. Like, I think the writers are going to fall in love with – they always have loved Tom Brady. So it's
that's true.
I think
they have to have a big year, though.
I don't think he has to win. I don't think he has to have a big year. I think
No. I'm saying they have to have a big the team has to rattle off like 12 wins.
But I'm picking Patrick Mahomes this year. I think Lamar Jackson I don't see Lamar Jackson winning it again. I think they said only four quarterbacks have ever went back to back. Favre, Peyton, Montana, and Jim Brown. So I love Lamar, but I don't think he's
Wait,
repeating.
only 4 players have ever gone back to back?
Yep. Only 4 have gone back to back MVPs. I just don't see him doing that again. I think he's gonna have a really good year, but I think again storylines like Jordan should have won more MVPs. LeBron should have won more MVPs, but Steve Nash is a better story. So
doesn't Kobe only have like 1 MVP?
Yeah, I think so. Right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Shaq only has a couple.
How many MVPs does Shaq have?
I think he only has 1 or 2.
Yeah, like that's it's the story. Like they get tired. They get tired with the and then they want to pick. And I think that's what's going to happen this year, where Pat Mahomes is going to be like
That's the problem with having and we compare MJ to LeBron and players to players. It's the problem with those types of things is that all-star appearances are voted by the fans.
Right.
That's not really saying who's better. Now, obviously, if you've got 12 all-star appearances, obviously you were a great player. But you having 12 and someone else having 9 because maybe they weren't as exciting as Vince Carter. Yeah. That's a tough thing.
Yeah. Okay. Who's your pick for MVP next year?
MVP next year, I'll say. Man, I want to go with someone that's not even on this list, but I'm just not thinking of people right now.
You think somebody not on this list is gonna win?
I want to say someone not on this list. I really would just want to pick a running back.
Oh, you want to pick the Great White Hope?
No, I don't want to pick the Great White Hope because I think after giving him this, didn't they just give him a monster contract?
Yeah.
They got to use him smart.
They're gonna run him into the ground. He might be a candidate.
That's the thing, though. I think they're not going to run him into the ground. I think they're going to be safe because you're deciding that he's your best player. You're deciding that you're centering your entire offense and future around a running back.
Yeah.
Which is not smart. And if you do what they did with Todd Gurley, you're going to end up with no Great White Hope. He's going to be done in a season or 2.
Yeah.
So if you want to have him long term, I say they probably use him more as a slot receiver, even more than they already have, or as much, and don't run him as much. They need to go get a Derrick Henry to bang people so they can use him less.
Yeah. I want to get your take real quick on what happened this weekend with the UFC. But before we do that, real quick start sit cut with Al. One of the start sit cuts that I saw that was a hot button one was Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum.
Ooh. That's a tough one. That's actually a tough one.
I'm sitting. Okay, so I'm gonna.
And this
start,
is to win today. Like if we're trying to win a game.
This is today. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna start Paul George. I think I'm gonna sit Jason Tatum, and I'm gonna cut Jimmy Butler. No, sorry. I'm gonna sit Jimmy Butler. I'm gonna cut Jason Tatum. Start Paul.
Oh wow, dude! I was actually gonna. Might be unpopular. I was gonna start Tatum.
Wow, really?
Start Tatum, bench George, cut Jimmy Butler.
Wow. You know why? Because Jimmy, I say wow because Tatum is young. He's just so young. Like I'm going to go with the experience with Paul and Jimmy before I go with Jason. It's today.
That's the thing. If it's game 7 right now, we got to go win a championship.
Yeah, it's today.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm
talking if I'm building a team.
Right, exactly. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, no. Just like your game 7, like money on the line. Who you going with?
All I'm gonna do is flop. Honestly, I'm just gonna flop Paul George and Jimmy Butler is dope. He's been streaky to me. In his especially in his last couple of years.
Yeah. I would agree with Joe. Very rare occasion. I'm just going to completely agree with Joe. Just because right now, if I'm trying to win a game right now, Paul George, defense, offense, Jimmy Butler, I think is streaky also. And Jason Tatum, I'll put it this way, though. On their best day, I'll take Jason Tatum. Like, if one of them is going to go out and have their best game of the year, I'll take Jason Tatum. But
I'm telling you what, though.
Because in 3 years,
bro.
Yeah, he's going to be he might be the best player in the league in 3 years.
If you look at what he looked like if you look at how he's improved already since he came in, it's incredible. It's even the way he built his body up.
You think he got paid to go to Duke?
I think everybody got paid to go to Duke. And we're going to talk about that on the next podcast since we're out of time for today. But before we get out of here, UFC was back this weekend. JT, what do you think? Like, how was it?
I think it was great. I think we needed it. I think
delivered. You want it. You need
it's delivered. I want it. Gotta get it. Yeah, I mean, I just think we needed sports. Dana White wanted the UFC to be the organization that brought sports back.
Yeah,
and they were. I think it was a smart move.
You think that Justin's next fight should be Conor or Khabib?
I think 100% if you're Justin Gaethje.
I don't know.
Justin Gaethje. I think it's Gaethje.
Gaethje.
I should know because I actually follow UFC. Justin Gaethje, I'm pretty sure. But if you're Justin Gaethje, 100 million% Conor McGregor. 100 gazillion% Conor McGregor. Because, of course, you want to be a champion. But if you beat Khabib, you make a tenth of the money that you would make fighting Conor. I don't even know if it's that high. If you fight Conor McGregor, it's your biggest payday. You don't ever have to fight again. And you and your kids and their kids are taken care of. Yeah. But if it was a matter of Khabib, I would say Gaethje might deserve it more right now because he just beat the guy. That was supposed to be Khabib in this fight. That fight was supposed to be Khabib versus Ferguson, which for the 5th time didn't happen.
Right.
That fight's supposed to have happened like 5 times.
Yeah.
The fight gods just don't want it to happen. And now Ferguson just got beat for the first time in 12 fights by a guy that most people didn't think was going to beat him.
Yeah.
And he got beat bad.
Yeah.
He got the crap beat out of him.
That'll be cool. That'll be interesting to see. Al Cleveland, thank you for joining the show today, bro. We got to have you back. When we get out of the apocalypse, we got to go shoot some hoops or something at some point. Bro. For real. And we got to get into a shed when this is all over at some point too.
Yes, sir.
I miss like, actually remember we used to like play music in front of people?
I'm finally starting to miss it.
Bro.
Like physical people, like they'd be in front of you.
Yeah, like real people. Like they would watch you and everything and like pay to see you.
People would pay to see this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about a whole other world.
I really miss that. Al, tell us where everybody can follow you and stay up to date with what you're doing.
Man, so you can follow me on Twitter at Al Cleveland 1. You can follow me on Instagram, A Cleveland III. That's A Cleveland III. And it's pretty much the 2 social handles that I use. Getting the YouTube page up and running, ACT Productions. And that's pretty much how you can find me, man.
Dope. I'm at Joe Connor 33 on everything. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the YouTube page Backstage Sports. Turn on that notification button so you know whenever we drop a video. If you're listening, you can listen now on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Woo! We're on iHeartRadio. So go follow on iHeartRadio. Make sure you're getting all the information, all the downloads, all the goodness, all the videos, all the arguments, all of that. Get all of it. Okay? JT, where are we following you at?
Get it all. I mean, the arguments are great, and I always win them, so it's really interesting conversation.
Wise to be told.
You can find me at JT Harker on everything, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Al, thank you for coming on, man.
Man. Thanks for coming on. So until next time, please stay home and stay safe. Peace.